forecast. We'll make sure you're not bored to death, but all your friends have disappeared, and you're the last one left. If you want to live, I suggest not doing drugs and having sex. Run through the forest grasping for breath, as you're chased by a maniac wearing a mask of flesh, tripping over dead friends. This isn't over until you get revenge. Final girls try to survive in a violent world. It's eye for an eye. Hide behind doors, lying underneath beds, trying to bide your time and find your strength, and figure out how much time it takes to escape before it's too late, or come face to face with a grim fate. Welcome to Class Horrorcast. Let's see how long you last as you torture to death. So come join your host Aaron and Tomcat as we bring you a podcast that will leave you laughing in a body bag or a bloodbath. Welcome to Class Horrorcast. Let's see how long you last.
Indeed. Welcome. I still hate that hard cut that StreamYard does between video and when you cut into us.
I know.
But yeah, everybody, grab your gear. This week we're venturing deep into the chilling woods of The Ritual from 2017. We're going to explore its eerie differences from Adam Nevill's novel, dive into the folklore behind the terrifying creature, and uncover behind-the-scenes secrets from the set. Let's get lost in the horror, but don't stray too far from the path. So, Tom, how are you, sir? It's been a while. We've gotten over the Christmas break. We're in a new year, 2025.
Pretty wild.
Yeah. How does it feel to be in 2025 now, and how have you been over the holidays?
I can't say that on your show. But we're 5 years away from hopefully nothing, but it could be a lot of something. So, but no, yeah, it's just they went by so fast, right? I took a little bit of time off, not the full 2 weeks, but I only worked like Monday, Tuesday, whatever, had some time off. It is just crazy how fast it goes by. And then like you see all your family and stuff of the people you get together with, and then it's on to the new year, right? The wife felt the baby kick for the first time today.
Oh wow.
Pretty crazy. It's so crazy, man. Like
were you there for that?
No, she was at work. She just texted me. It's just like pretty wild. It's like there's a little alien creature in her body.
Yeah, it's kind of freaky. I don't know how I deal with it, right? I've always like talked to different people about this. I don't know how well I would deal with the idea of, I know a lot of women are like, oh my God, like, childbirth and carrying the child is so beautiful. Just for me, like my personality, I'm like, I don't know how I'd fare with the idea of that.
Well, it is like, it's been tough on her and stuff like that too, right? And most women are, but the what comes out of it, is the most amazing thing, right? So like she doesn't feel well all the time and always nauseous. She's getting past that hump now, and then it gets better and then it gets worse or whatever, right? So it is I don't know, because I was gonna say something that I should, but I'm like, I would probably have like 10 kids if I was a woman, if I could. You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, I think we need more babies, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But it is crazy, right? And it's going to be a new chapter. The show will still be kept alive. Aaron's just got to get really good at scheduling, and then we can do this. And this is awesome. I got the green screen because eventually my podcast studio will not be here anymore, where I still am. It will be in the bedroom, which is going to be a fun time to figure out that. But right now I'm in a forest. It's pretty nice. I'm stuck inside of a forest.
I can't even remember what I was going to say now. Oh yeah, did you get any like nice gifts or horror related gifts or conspiracy related gifts or anything like that? I suppose is like within our realm.
Well, I got it seems like from her dad, he always gives me like a fun board game or something like that. So there was like a serial killer kind of one. That it would be fun if you ever came. Like I have some fun games that definitely we could play where we like drink or whatever. Like this one seems, it's like 2 to 6 players. Seems kind of fun. Not really anything else. Everything was kind of just like useful, like clothes or coats or stuff like that. Did you? Because I can, considering what you do and who you are.
Honestly, no. I actually don't think I got anything in anywhere related to movies or anything really in general. Like, I got some money and shit like that, but um other than that, not really. Like, cause I'm a single, I'm a bachelor, like, so I didn't have nobody to get me any nice gifts or anything like that. So yeah, I actually don't think I got one thing. I did plan on at some point, maybe in the next few weeks, like maybe get myself something, but no, not really.
How just out of curiosity, how did you deal with like seeing the baby come out? Because like my dad, I think almost fainted.
Well, I would answer that question only for I didn't get to.
Oh, I don't want to dive into
Yeah.
that, but I would be pretty upset.
Um, yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Even nearly 11 years later, yeah, you'd still be in the same position. Um, yeah, but I don't know how I'd fare with it though. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, I know somebody. I'm not gonna say who or anything like that, but I know somebody who got a C-section or whatever, and then they're like pulling out the baby and trying to get the husband to look at it, and he's like, I don't want to look, and they're like, look at it, and he's like, I don't want to look. It's so
yeah,
messed
I
up.
like. Oh god, I get it. Like, it's such a beautiful thing, and it's crazy that women are able to like basically make like hold a life form inside of them and then birth it. But at the same time, like, I wouldn't say I'm a squeamish person, but like,
Yeah,
I don't know how I would deal with like looking at my other half and there's like blood and like goo and stuff and all.
I know.
I don't know if like the whole experience of like, oh, we're having a kid and here it is like coming to life right now. That coupled with like the gore aspect, if I'd be like, wow, I feel like I'm gonna faint. So I can kind of get when I before I used to not really understand like when you would hear of guys like fainting and stuff like that, and midwives would always say like, oh yeah, we get a lot of men who like need to like step outside for a few minutes, maybe get some water or like sit down.
Yeah,
And I was always like, what? I don't get it. But I think it's because I mean like it's been such a build up, I think, for both like the man and the woman, and then like all this shit's happening, and like I think it
back to it. You froze for a
uh-oh,
second.
that
There we
is not good.
That's scary stuff.
Yeah, we froze there. That's not good.
go. I know. Fuck. It's fine. It's coming back to normal.
Um, but yeah, I don't know. I don't even know where I was at now. I was just saying something about not being interested in looking at bloody
Yeah,
babies and
scary
stuff. But
stuff. This movie is messed up anyway.
it is actually right. So for everybody out there, audio, video, whatever way you're consuming this episode, we are going to cover the 2017 movie The Ritual, which was directed by David Bruckner. It was written by Joe Barton and Adam Nevill, I guess, because it's based on the novel that he wrote called The Ritual, and they adapted it for the screen, which we'll talk about the differences and stuff. It stars, I don't know how you say that name. Is that Rafe?
Oh yeah, Raffi. Like the singer.
He's probably the one I know most from this. He was in Shaun of the Dead. He was like the idiot in Shaun of the Dead. And he was also in a football hooligan movie called Green Street, which
Who is
also
he
had
in Shaun of the Dead? Who are we talking about?
I'll have to try and pull him up.
I'm trying to I'm trying to think of who is in.
Yeah, I can't. I'm trying to think of his character's name, but I can't remember whereabouts he shows up.
Because you have the two main characters. You have like the nerdy guy with the glasses.
He's in
Um,
Hot Fuzz as well. Oh, that's who he is. I couldn't. I was trying to think. He's. So do you remember where Sean works in Shaun of the Dead?
yeah, the bar thing.
No, remember he works in like the electrical store or whatever it is.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And do you remember there's a guy and he's like he keeps telling him like he's chewing gum. And he's like telling him he's like no phones. And then Sean's phone goes off and he's like, how come we're not allowed to have our phones and you're allowed to take family phone calls?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember that.
Do you remember the guy that I'm talking about? Let me pull him up on
Kind of.
screen here for anybody who's watching the video aspect. But if not, you're just gonna have to like Google this and trust me. I can't remember exactly how to explain that scene. He's that guy.
He looks so different, man.
I know, right?
Whoa, he lost like weight. He looks kind of chiseled now. Wow, that's so different than what he
That's
looks like
the
now.
guy
That's
who's
why I
left at
wouldn't
the
have
end of
known.
the movie. Like,
Wild.
mm-hmm.
Wow, look what he did to himself. That's awesome.
I'm sure he was Eli Mills in Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom.
Huh, that's so crazy, man.
Yeah, he's become like a kind of a big actor in a way, I suppose. It also has Robert James Collier, who nobody on your side of the world will know this reference, but he was best known as a character in Coronation Street, which is a huge like kind of soap opera.
Oh yeah, the wife's mom watches that fucking boring show. Remember her
Yeah,
husband is Scottish, so
yeah. So he was like a huge character in that for like I don't know, like 6 years, 8 years. So he was on TV like 4 or 5 times a week for like 8 years over here. Um, you have Sam Troughton, who was in Alien vs Predator, and Paul Reed, who was in Kate Dolan, who was a friend of mine actually, who only lives maybe an hour away from here. She had that pretty big Irish horror movie about 2 years ago called "You Are Not My Mother," and
you're not my mother.
she's also doing the spin-off movie from the Megan franchise called Soulmate. I think she just finished filming that recently.
Oh, that's cool. Is
This
it actually
movie,
gonna be? Is Megan gonna be in it, or is it just like another style kind of like?
so as far as I'm aware, um, it is a. I'll have to get
That's like
the.
the same kind of premise. I remember. I feel like we talked about this maybe.
Yeah, just bear with me now. So this is it's kind of weird, but it'll be interesting to see. Now she seemed quite excited about it. So a man acquires an artificially intelligent android to cope with the loss of his recently deceased wife in an attempt to create a truly sentient partner. He inadvertently turns a harmless love bot into a deadly soulmate.
No, it's weird. We just watched that one with Megan Fox, Subservient or whatever.
Oh yeah.
It was weird. I don't really know if I actually liked it, but the idea was cool for what it was. But I feel like everyone's trying to run with this robot AI scare
Yeah.
because it is scary, right? Most people should be kind of scared of
Yeah.
it. It was weird, and Megan Fox is a man, and she admitted it. So just everybody that has a crush on her, she
Yeah,
is
she scares me.
100% a dude.
Scares me. Yeah, this was filmed in Romania, probably something to do with tax breaks, whatever, but it's supposed to be in northern Sweden, as of course all of these kind of
Yeah,
spooky
I know.
Wicker Man movies seem to be. It was released on October 13, 2017.
Romania is a strange place, you know. It's creepy.
Pro-
I knew a buddy
Produced
from Romania, so seems like a tough place to hang out in.
Yeah, I would imagine all those places are. Um, Produced on an estimated budget of approximately $1 million, the film grossed over
It's
1
not bad.
million during its theatrical run in the United Kingdom. Internationally, it earned a total of 1.786 million. Additionally, Netflix acquired the international distribution rights of the film for 4.75 million. This acquisition allowed Netflix to stream the film globally, contributing to its overall financial success beyond box office earnings. Which is what's kind of funny about this movie is it came out and if you were into horror, you were into this kind of stuff, you saw it or you heard about it.
Yeah.
But if you didn't, nobody really knew anything about it until Netflix acquired it. And then it came out on Netflix, and I feel like people discovered it as if it was new. But at that point, it was already like probably 4 years old.
Yeah, that's how I saw the trailer of it on there, and then I watched it because of it was on Netflix, right? And it is. I think it's a really good movie. I think it should grant more praise for its creativeness and storyline in general, which it seems very different than a lot of the other stuff that they're putting out.
Yeah,
Like, it's
100%.
had that same feel of like the Lost in the Forest kind, you know what I mean? But it was very different in the way they went about it.
There's there is a the director of this actually is quite good, David Bruckner. He done The Signal in 2007. I don't know if you've ever seen that. He done a segment in the original VHS movie. He done a segment in Southbound. He done a couple of episodes of that Creep Show when they brought back Creep Show that time.
I tried to give it a chance. I don't know if I need to like revisit it, but
Yeah, some of the episodes are really good and some of them are shockingly bad. He also had a movie that I only watched the other night and I didn't even realize it was him, called The Night House from 2020, which is a decent movie.
Yeah.
It's about a widow who begins to uncover that her recently deceased husband has many disturbing secrets. Interesting movie. I definitely give it a watch sometime if you're looking. He also done the new Hellraiser with the chick.
Oh, I've told you I want to cover that. I actually really liked it. More than I
No.
thought I would.
I know, and I was expecting. Honestly, I nearly wanted to go into it being like fucking garbage. I hate this,
Yeah,
but I actually really enjoyed it.
female
Yeah,
pinhead.
I'll be honest. Like that's
Yeah,
how I was feeling about it. But I
Have you
actually
seen Nosferatu yet?
no, but I may potentially go tomorrow.
Okay. I really
you
want to
seen
do
it?
something. Yeah.
You've seen it?
Yeah. We saw it on New Year's.
I was going to, right? And
Yeah.
the reason I haven't now, and you know me, right? And everybody else that listens to the show probably knows this about me as well, where I have like this weird tism about like if there's a new horror movie out, I will just run. I'll go alone. I'll go with people. I don't give a fuck. But I don't know what made me hold off for like a day or two. And then I was like online and I seen everyone going like biggest pile of garbage I've ever seen. And I was like, okay, I'm not in such a rush then to go see it. It seems to be one of those movies. But you see, I feel like It Follows, and there's a couple of other movies that fall into that category. It's so divisive. There's literally no middle ground, it seems, with this movie. It's like people go, masterpiece, loved every minute of it, so beautifully shot, so gothic, so great, blah, blah, blah. And then other people are like, biggest 2 hour and 12-minute pile of shit I've ever seen, terrible, never want to see it again. There's no like,
and I think the people that have a negative review of it actually don't understand cinema. A lot of people just want to go into a film and it to be like this thing that they expect that they have in their head about what cinema should be, especially horror movies. I'm gonna say there's things I liked and didn't like about it, but I really did enjoy it, and I give Robert Eggers like a round of applause for creating and doing something new with that character. But the more things that I don't like was the aesthetic things that he chose for characters and stuff like that. But every performance, in my opinion, was amazing, really well done. There's a couple holes in the plot a little bit, but it kept very true to the original story, which I do want to think it would be fun to do a live stream of.
What we're gonna do, everybody, is because you will hear this before next week, but what we're gonna do is, I think next week when we record an episode, I think I would like to chat to Tom about this movie, Nosferatu, and just like the whole Nosferatu as a thing in general, maybe for like an hour-long episode, and then we'll do what Tom has spoken about, where we're actually gonna watch the original and kind of commentate over it and chat and whatever.
Yeah, that's a good idea. If it's fresh in my head, because it is.
We might even do it all as one. Maybe we'll have the other one playing in the background while we chat about the old one and the new one. And I just feel like that'd be interesting. It feels like a big topic now, and I'm probably going to have a lot to say about it once I see it tomorrow.
Sure.
So,
sure you will. There was a couple scenes where Chelsea, my wife, was like, "That's a little weird."
I do have actually one question without having seen it. Obviously,
I'm not going to spoil it for anybody.
Yeah, but you can't have a phone now without having shit spoiled for you anyway. But
I try not to look at it.
What was your opinion on the whole mustache thing?
Oh, you heard about that?
Yeah,
that's one of the aesthetic things that I didn't like. I understood why he did it, because it was like, oh, he wants to like harken back to the whole idea of where this comes from, which is Vlad the Impaler. Me and Billy covered him in kind of a really offensive episode at the end of the day. I don't know why it turned out that way. But this idea, he said that he wanted what would he look like if he was actually like an undead vampire. But there's two things, and it's not going to spoil it. The mustache, I was like, why? It just feels weird to me. It's just, if it was just weird.
Dumb, but I was like, okay.
I know it was something weird about it. And the fangs not being the two front teeth bothered me, because that's his whole character. That's what he looks like. You're not gonna like. Why would you change that much about a character that has existed since the beginning of film, literally? That's the two things that really bothered me. Everything else I pretty much liked, but that was like, why the mustache? I'm like, he would die. It would just fall off his body eventually. Like everything is decaying, right, on his face. His whole like he's a corpse. He's a walking corpse that drinks blood. So I'm like, why would the mustache survive, but his fucking hair wouldn't?
Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah,
this is so
it's a weird one. I don't know, when the minute I seen it, I was like, oh.
I can't wait for you to see it, because I think it might be a good idea to do like a 45-minute review about it, and then do maybe a watch. I really want to do a watch along of the original, and then we can harken back to some of the stuff we talked about. But I think it might be a good idea to do it separately, because I think there's going to be a lot for us to say that we're not going to be paying attention to, like what's happening in the film to critique it and stuff like that. So yeah.
Um, okay, so let's dive into this movie then a bit. So can you remember the first time you saw this movie? Well, you said you came across it on Netflix, so
Yeah, me and the
and
wife watched it one night.
was it literally just like you saw the trailer, you saw the thing pop up, and you were like, "Oh, let me just check this out."
Yeah. And I remember I'm pretty sure we were just like sitting down on the couch watching, like, who knows, we were having a glass of wine or whatever like that. But I do remember really enjoying it, and it kept me on edge the whole time. And that's why eventually when you said we're going to cover this, I was like, I'm excited, because I think it's I don't know, I'm not saying it's in my top 100 of like horror films that are like, it's pretty well done, not gonna lie. Like there's not much negative that I can say about this film, really, because it is like that. Well, it keeps you on edge, keeps your attention. The storyline's good, it's well written, there's good actors. The ending kind of cliffhanger is amazing in my opinion. So I got nothing but pretty much good things to say about this, other than like characters annoying me, but that's a different story.
Yeah, yeah. There's like this I don't like I don't want to say it's not the perfect movie, don't get me
I
wrong.
know.
But for my taste and for what I like, this
Of
is like
course it
my
is too.
yeah, it's like my perfect kind of movie. I love movies that are set in the woods. I love movies that are in the wilderness and any like creepy mountainous areas.
I know.
I I fucking love cults. I love any weird like runes and like weird languages and shit like that. Spooky.
Something
Yeah,
like that.
anything
It's
like
coming
that,
through the forest.
I'm instantly sold. Like I feel like if I could make some sort of found footage, low budget horror movie, I'd love to base it around some weird cult like Illuminati, like
But and then add a cryptid to it. Oh man, like remember
yeah.
that horrible movie you made me watch?
Uh, what movie was that again?
The
The last
found
podcast?
footage Jersey Devil
The
one.
last broadcast? Yeah, I do remember now.
It's like, man, I could like I give me that money that they got and I'll make it better. I mean it. I will act it all out myself and I'll make it more amusing.
I
It was
genuinely wish I could.
so
I
do I.
never say stuff like that ever.
There's so many like I don't know. There's only certain things that really creep me out of the idea of survival. One of them is in the ocean. Like you can't survive that if something happens. Like look at that submarine that was controlled by a PlayStation remote. It seems like a psyop to me, some sort of psychological warfare in some regard. But it's just like one little pop and you're fucked. Like you know what I mean? You got no time to get out. Imagine being in like a submarine. You know what I mean? You're a Nazi or something like that. And then like a little hole pierces in the side of your U-boat. And then you're like, just fuck, you're done. And but a forest is the other one where it's like, if you're lost in a forest, there is literally no way out if you don't know where you're going. You're stuck there for as long as it takes for you to survive, as long as you possibly can, to try to navigate out of a dense forest. And we even talked about that one in Ireland, the Ballybooley Forest. You wouldn't want to get stuck in that thing. Like if you go deep enough in there, then it becomes a maze, and then you're stuck forever.
Yeah, because like obviously a lot of these things, with the main horror movies and stuff, they have like a supernatural aspect to them. But like even if we were just to, I suppose, just take like a more reality based thing, let's exclude like the cults, any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Like there is forests in the world where like if you continually walked, I know people always say, oh well, if I was in like a big national park or whatever, and I was in a forest, I would just walk in one direction, and sure, eventually I would have to come out. Yeah, okay, yeah, you're correct in one way in what you're saying. If I continually walk, say west, at some point I'll have to come out somewhere. Yes, but you haven't accounted for if you're dead before you come out.
And the thing is, too, people are always like, "Oh my god, I love watching these movies where it's like the fantasy and you know, like, oh, look at this hero in the Marvel movie." There's crazier shit happening in real life that you're not aware of. You know how many people go missing in fucking national parks? Like, it's absurd. And then they're like, you can lay over the cave systems that are in the United States and how much the cave systems line up. Like, it's crazier than you think. There's more true stories about about people getting lost in national parks. It's crazy the amount of stories that there is about that. And then that alone, you're in the forest, you don't know what's out there, you don't know if some sort of thing is lurking out there. Specifically, animals obviously is a big thing. Wolves, coyotes, bears, especially in Canada, that are hungry and need some sort of sustenance, and you could be that sustenance for them. You know, especially if you start to slow down and then they just look at you as nothing more. Well, this thing is not threatening. So then they'll definitely eat you.
Yeah, like I think it's severely still, which is kind of crazy, like to say in 2025, but it's a lot of people I think it's still severely like underrated how dangerous that shit can get and how quickly. I mean, there's a movie called Backcountry, about a couple who like do one of these national park kind of things, and they're like super into it, and they've researched where to go and what to do and blah blah blah. But I don't know, to find some like, I don't know, it's like considered like a black spot in this national park, but it's supposed to be really beautiful, but it's only for like um really experienced like outdoorsy people and whatever. And I think I don't know if it's both of them or the dude or the chick. One of them's like, oh, let's go and do it. What's the worst that can happen? And then like they end up not realizing that the whole time they're being tracked by a bear. And
Yeah, you
then
ever
about
seen The
halfway
Edge or
through the
whatever?
movie,
Yeah.
yeah, like and Backcountry, if anyone has never seen it or whatever, you should definitely check it out. It's worth the 80-90 minutes. So like we see the whole build up to it, and there is a fucking scene where they're in the tent and they get attacked by this bear, and it is the most like jaw dropping where you're like, what?
Okay,
Because
I'll have to watch that sometime.
it's not like a movie scene where it's all like fantastical and they're like stabbing the bear in the eyes and all with stuff and like, MacGyver and weapons. And it's what I would think it would be like to be with your girlfriend in the forest and think like, oh, I'm a cool dude.
I'll have to
And get
check
it.
that out, man.
It's a very good movie. And then it just kind of shows from there. There's no like special like, oh well, my other half is after being like maimed. Now I've just figured out how to like, fashion weapons and like light fires. It's literally a person going, well, I'm fucked. I've
That's
with
like
this,
that movie, The Edge. I always like having a bear just like kind of hunt you, especially once it gets a taste for your blood. Probably not a good idea to go out there
and
alone.
and then obviously in this movie, then if you add in like, okay,
Ooh,
so
the Wendigo.
yeah, like so
We'll
for
get to it.
people who maybe don't know, the movie follows a group of friends from the UK who go on a hiking trip through the remote Swedish forest, which quickly turns into a nightmare when they encounter a mysterious entity. Um, so that doesn't really give away too much, I guess. We see at the start with the group of friends, and do they go into like, is it like a supermarket or like a liquor store or something like that?
Yeah, it's definitely a supermarket. Like, seems like an American one because there is liquor there and stuff like that.
um and it gets held up or whatever, and one of the guys in the group is like at the counter at the time, and I think, don't they tell him, I think he gives up his wallet and stuff, doesn't he? But then they tell
Yeah,
him to take his wedding ring off,
yeah.
and he's like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah.
And they're like, nah, no, what the fuck do you mean, like, give me the wedding ring? And he's like, nah, I'm not giving you the ring. And what happens then?
Doesn't he get hit? He gets hit to the ground or whatever, and then his buddy does nothing, right? And he holds that forever, right?
Yeah, but do they, he doesn't get shot, does he? Do they stab
I thought
him?
they
Or
like stab him or hit him in the head. He's like bleeding on the ground.
yeah, and so, and anyway, this guy ends up dying, and then we have the main character we talked about, the guy from Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz and all those movies. His character then is his character's name is Luke. Luke and Phil, Dom and Hutch, they're all like part of the friend group, and they take this, I guess, like this trip away or this retreat. I don't know if it's like to like bond again and maybe drop some of the guilt and some of the like, and you can tell at different stages, like different people either hold a little bit of guilt themselves or blame somebody else in the group. And there's definitely aspects we see as things start to fall apart where like certain characters are like turning on Luke, and it all starts to come out like their, I suppose, real feelings about what went on that day. And a lot of it is like Luke, the main character or whatever you want to call him. It does kind of present him in like kind of like a shitbag. Like his friend is getting like confronted by thieves or whatever, and he just hides behind the aisle, and like his friend gets stabbed and killed or whatever, and he just stays there. He doesn't do anything. Which is like,
it's hard to.
There's look, it's a double-edged sword, because you know we could all sit here now and say, well, if that was me, I'd get up and I'd drop kick the thief and I would save the day and whatever. But like, I don't know if for sure anybody could say that. Like, I could say to you right now, if we were together somewhere and something like that happens, in my head, I'd be like, well, I guess we both have to go down. I can't just hide behind the wall and just let you just fucking die without even attempting to do something. But then at the same time, you don't know if you're put in that position. Maybe you wouldn't.
I know that's it's hard to say because nobody knows how they're going to react. There is a bystander effect that happens, right? In Canada, a guy blows a vape into a guy's daughter's face. Of course, he's not from the country. And then everyone just films this guy getting stabbed in the neck and stuff by someone who shouldn't be in this country to begin with. And then, everyone just watches and films it. Well, the guy just keels over and he's been stabbed a bunch of times in the stomach and chest and stuff like that. And then he just dies in front of his daughter and his wife.
And it's wild, right? For anybody who, like, I don't necessarily recommend going to look at it, but I was only telling my dad about this over Christmas. We were having like some kind of family discussion thing, and we were talking about all those sort of issues. And that came up, and like we looked at the video again, and it's such a surreal thing to look at because there is so much blood, and it's crazy looking. It nearly looks fake. And there's actually a person sitting there outside of like the Starbucks or Tim Hortons or whatever. And there's like, say, 4 tables where you can like have your coffee outside or whatever. And there's actually a person sitting at one of those tables, literally like probably 4 or 5 feet from where this is happening. And they just have a coffee cup and they're just like,
crazy, just ignoring what's happening.
Dying.
Yeah.
And nobody's like thinking like maybe if we all just like, you know, like
there is more of us than them when it comes to any of this stuff. And that's definitely a conversation for my show. But like, you can't just, eventually it's going to come after you. Like, you know what I mean? This monster that we're all talking about that's obviously destroying the Western world. It's all going to come after all of us at some point. So the more that people are just like literally put their like blinders up and ignore it, it's only going to get worse. Right. So it's crazy. Like, and that's so this guy's left with guilt because of that stuff. Right. And because he thinks he let his friend die, but then people don't know how they're going to react. And could he have died in the process? Then what is it worth? Like, you know what I mean?
There's a lot of moving parts there. And I think that's another thing with this movie that maybe gets overlooked a bit. There's a very good like base like storyline, I think, and dynamic between the group. And I know you mentioned earlier about there's some characters that maybe annoy you and stuff like that you don't like. I like, you know, being born and raised in Ireland and like, you know, being back and forth to the UK and stuff an awful lot. These are exactly how I would envision like a group of English guys as friends. They behave exactly like I would expect, to be totally honest.
Yeah, I can see that.
And as annoying and as like backstabbing and like scummy and as I would expect like an English group of lads to be, which is something that I kind of you know, a lot of times in horror movies, like the characters a lot of times are not that relatable. It's just like you know what the characters are, but like, you know, you can't relate to them. Like I can't relate to fucking, I don't know, Matthew Lillard in Scream. Like it's just so like out there and like zany. Whereas like something like
I don't
this,
know.
I'm like,
I think I could relate to him.
yeah, well, you're mad. But like with this, I'm like, you know what? Actually, I could see like the dynamic here a little bit where
The characters are really well done in regards to like believability and like how
Yeah.
it is like a real, it reminds me of what real friends would do, right? You start to blame each other, get angry, and then you see this where it starts to divide them and they're arguing with each other and stuff. And
yeah, and then you have it's Dom, I think, the guy with
Yeah.
the kind of black hair with the shaved
he's
head.
the one that fucking annoys me. Is it the one with the glasses? I thought that was Dom.
No, that's the
Yeah.
little sniveling little fucking.
I fucking hate
And I
that.
knew it was that guy as well that you didn't like. But
Oh,
that's
Dom
how-
is the main character, right?
no, Luke is the main character, the
Yeah.
guy who's at the end,
Yeah.
and Dom is the guy with like the black hair with like the shaved head.
And then there's the kind of Indian guy, right?
Yeah, that's
Okay, so I know
Yeah.
who you're talking about. So the Dom seems more kind of like they're trying. It's pretty sure something sad happens to him. But
sorry, wait now, have I gotten this all wrong?
maybe we should bring up the.
Yeah, so Dom, I think, is the guy you were talking about with the glasses.
Yeah, because I just remember them saying like Dom, get up or something like that. Like
Yeah,
Try-
you're right.
try
You're
to
right.
remember.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
Did you look up IDMB or whatever? Whatever the
that's
hell.
what I'm doing here as we speak. Let me have a look here. So, yeah. So
Oh, yeah.
Dom is this guy on the right?
The annoying guy.
Yes,
Okay, yeah.
as far as I'm aware. And then Luke. Fuck, dude, I'm gonna have to look this up because it's
Luke
actually,
is the one with the big backpack on. I'm pretty sure.
because this is really going to irritate
Yeah, I
me now.
know. You need to like go into the cast now. I usually pull it up too. Look at how suave Hutch is.
Yeah, so Luke.
Oh, okay. Main guy.
Yeah, so Luke is the main guy. So we got that right.
Who cares about
Phil-
Phil? No one even talks about
Yeah,
Phil.
I did. Dom is the little sniveling little weasel guy.
Look
And
at how
then-
suave that guy is, Hutch.
Yeah, so Hutch, that's the guy from Coronation Street that I was
Oh,
talking
that's
about.
why he's so suave looking.
That's him.
He's
This
a good
guy here.
actor.
Yeah, and he kind of tries to take a bit of the like, yeah, I'm the real tough, like,
Yeah, the
Yeah,
leadership
man.
kind of role.
yeah, shut up, dude. I'm the man and all that. Right, we're gonna go west.
Yeah.
And he's like kind of doing all that, but like as time goes on, you can tell that like while he may kind of be a little bit of a tough character, maybe back in England or whatever, or back at home, like comfy, in this situation, like he's just kind of bluffing his way through the whole thing because
Yeah,
we
100%.
get to see fairly quick. He's like, well, actually, I'm full of shit.
Yeah, it's true. And it is like there's some scenery. They make a comment about how insignificant they feel. You know what I mean? Just like it is like a crazy, like look at the background. And just some of the scenery, even in this film and the way they film it, does make you feel insignificant even watching it. You know, because like look how like I feel like you could get lost in there pretty easily, and then you could be dead within the matter of hours, days, or definitely not weeks. I think you're gonna die within. If you just got lost in there and you didn't have any food, you're kind of done. I know, just lost in there forever.
And everything starts to look the same, and like
Yes,
you can
especially
see
in
as well,
forests like this.
and especially like, you know, people might say, oh, they have backpacks and they have stuff and they have. Yeah, but they weren't prepared to be like out there for any extended periods of time. And then as you see, like the weather starts to become an issue, and then somebody twists their ankle, and it just something that seems really insignificant. Like if you said like, oh, I have a sprained ankle. Okay, I sprained my ankle in work. Okay, it's an inconvenience, but I've just got to go home and rest it.
Yeah.
If I sprain my ankle in the middle of a forest in like the Swedish wilderness, I don't really have many options
No.
on
And
what to
it's
do.
so funny. I even wrote down after seeing American Werewolf in London, I would never do this. But you would feel safer with a bunch of guys. But I feel like you would need a gun at least because it's like all these people go in the forest and they're like, you should. That's what it's so funny about. Like they're trying to take guns away in Canada. They've banned 300 and something guns, so they could send it to Ukraine. So that's fun. So more people could be slaughtered in a pointless war. And it's crazy because like Canadians need that shit legitimately. There is like legitimate concerns of people that live in the wilderness. Most of Canada is literally barren wasteland of wilderness. So we actually need those guns. And like going to a place like this, you probably should get a gun.
Yeah. And like as we see later on in the movie, when he picks up a gun would have been handy in the first place.
I know.
Now, I'm
Right?
not saying I know when we get to the monster creature thing, it may not have been as effective, but
Yeah.
like one of the dudes that he comes across in one of those houses, he fucking blows him away with the gun.
Yeah.
So
It
like
is.
it would have been kind of
Yeah.
effective. Like he could have blown away half this cult.
There's so many movies that I watch where I'm like, if you just had a gun, it would see like if this is real life, it would be the end. The movie would be over.
Yeah, yeah. There's your best mate.
I literally wrote down that one guy in the glasses already annoys me, and that was at like the very beginning of the film.
Yeah, even his face and like
Yeah, I know.
obviously as we see through the story, then he kind of becomes the one with the me and Tom were just talking about where when the group starts to kind of fall apart when everything goes to shit. I think is he the one that twists his ankle?
Yes, yeah,
Yeah, so of course he has to be
yeah.
like the sniveling little annoying. So he twists his ankle, he starts being a bitch and he starts annoying everybody and but then it all starts to come out like he's like, oh yeah, well if you hadn't have fucking let whatever die
Hmm.
and stuff. I think that's one of those like
Yep.
conversations we're having right there.
Yeah,
You know, he becomes like the one who starts to like, I suppose, fracture the group more by saying all
I
the shit
agree. And
all
the
the
thing
time.
is, if it was him in that situation, he would have done
Oh,
worse. He probably would have just ran away.
definitely, 100%. And that's that thing of like the one thing I will say I like about the way his character is written is he represents exactly that. He represents the guy who sits on the couch being like, well, if I was fighting in a cage, I just wouldn't get knocked out.
Yeah, I know.
It's that thing, and he's doing that to everybody else, like where he's like, he's the one who's like being the bitch. He's the one who sprained his ankle. He's the one who's always moaning. He's the one who's constantly looking for food and water and cigarettes. And he doesn't seem to really care about anybody else in the group. But at the
Yeah,
same time, he has this kind of like woe is me, and he kind of tries to sound like, you know, I know everything. I'm looking out for our best interest. It's like, motherfucker, you seem to only care about you.
yeah, I know, and that's it shows the selfishness, especially that character's behavior. And he did a good job in the writing of making, there is characters in movies that like you try to hold sympathy for, but you don't want to at the end of the day. And then when they die, you're kind of like, well, you kind of deserve it. And there's like the way he dies is, I think, fairly sad. And like you kind of start to feel for his character because he's just like kind of everybody else, but it, you know what I mean? Like it's
And
still like you still kind of did this to yourself.
yeah, and it again, that's a thing that I think is like criminally underrated about this movie. How for as fantastical as the story is, it's also feels like it's like grounded in reality at the same time,
Yeah,
which kind
yeah,
of
I
doesn't
know.
make sense to say
I agree.
because like we are talking about a movie that's set in the Swedish woods about a cult and a weird like hybrid creature monster thing.
Yeah.
So like it seems quite fake, and then for me to say, well, it's actually very like reality based in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
Like,
it's the characters and their dynamic and like what kind of comes of this. Like when they go to like that, even just like rewatching it, like when they're it's a rainstorm, it sucks. It's what happens when you go into a forest and you're not really prepared. And then they go in that house and they're like, oh, okay, sweet shelter. But I would have thought as soon as they saw it, I would have ran in there too. I'd be like, hey, get out of the rain.
yeah, yeah.
But my first thought would be like, what the fuck is this thing doing in the middle of the forest? You know?
It's the same as the thing with the rust and powerhouse in the Blair Witch Project. It's like
I feel like
while
you're gonna come to you're just you're like on the edge before you come to how badly you want to like cover that movie.
Oh yeah, 100%. Um,
I know you love it.
but it's like, you know, it's a similar thing with that where it's like, yeah, while it seems like, oh yeah, house, let's like go inside the house. At the same time, it's like, why is this here?
Yeah, I know.
Like what like how is this, what's going on? Like how? But like
Yeah,
you said, again, maybe if you were panicking and everybody had been arguing all day and everybody's tired and pissed off and scared, maybe in the heat, well, I'm not
and
even
that's
saying maybe,
oh man.
I'd probably say, right, Tom, let's get into this house and let's like, I don't know, try and fortify it. So like
Yeah, I
not
know.
get into us, not realizing that like, actually, wait, now have we entered something that we shouldn't be in? Do you know what I mean? It seems like the safe thing to do, like to go like, let's go
Yeah, and
inside.
that's like yeah. Well, and then everything starts to hit the fan, and they start to like their whole dreams and stuff is like pretty creepy. And like how they find that weird wicker man statue thing, and like just the panic that ensues when they all wake up is pretty wild because you're like, yeah, everyone's having these weird dreams, and then all of a sudden you wake up and there's people screaming, a guy naked in front of the altar. I don't even remember how that guy dies. Not gonna lie, the Indian man.
Uh,
I can't remember.
I
But
don't
like,
either.
cause he was the first, he was like worshiping that thing. That's fucking crazy. Like,
Yeah, and then
so
to be
messed
fair,
up, man.
how he as well is really good. Where like when they kind of like, I don't know, touch him or whatever, or wake him out of his trance or whatever, and like you can clearly tell he has no idea what he's been doing.
Yeah. Yeah, I know, right? And then you're like, and you don't know what you're like. A lot of all their reactions, like, I think it's creepy, like whatever the fuck that is. Um, and it is interesting because it's based on something that the indigenous, at least I feel like at one point, thought it was a very real thing.
Like
Um,
look at that landscape. Like
we'll get
it's
to the
just
monster. We'll be covering it on Strange Brew podcast for sure. Yeah, yeah, that's scary. Like, and then like you're like, how do you think you're gonna survive that? Why wouldn't you like sure go in and have a little backpack, but like go on a route that normal people
mm,
take, so then you would see others, and if something did happen or whatever, right? This side, like, unless you're like a man that is one of those dudes, that one guy that does that show where he just like survives the wilderness or whatever. There's that one guy I'm thinking of that does like a Netflix show too. There's a couple of those kind of guys,
Bear
but unless
Grylls.
you're like that, then why are you doing this? You know, just because you think you're all tough, you're four, you guys are tough, and all of a sudden something bad couldn't happen. You know,
Yeah, it's and especially, but again, is it that thing like, does
that
it
guy's
help
face
in
made me
kind of?
want to. I want to punch his face.
I know, yeah, I know. He's such a, like he's so good at playing that role. Again,
I
it's
know.
fantastic. But again, um is it brilliant writing paired with like great acting for the characters, in like the
Yeah,
sense of you can kind of see the male ego seep through as well, where everybody's like, yeah, I'm in control. Yeah, I'm in control. Yeah, I know what to do. Yeah, I'm the best. And it's like, in
yeah.
actual fact, none of you guys have got a clue.
So crazy, man. Um, yeah, I actually like. There is yeah. I just want to see what I had written down. There's like there is some scary scenes within this movie, like that one scene where the tent gets sucked away. I remember when I first saw that when I first watched it, and I was like, whoa. You know how scary that would be? Like, you don't know what the hell is going on. Everyone's disoriented, even if that was technically like a dream or whatever. And then just like seeing that tent just like disappear is like so freaky.
There's a lot of really like unsettling imagery, to be honest.
Mhm.
Um,
It's the best. I haven't seen many, but for uh, if you're gonna say like a cryptid movie type thing, a movie that was done based on a cryptid, by far this is probably the best one that I've seen.
yeah, yeah.
Antlers was pretty good too. I wouldn't mind covering that at some point. We could get Shane on even for that one because he wants to cover that at some point because that's like a pretty crazy movie. I remember the first time I watched that one, I was like, whoa. I have to rewatch that one, but same kind of premise, but pretty bizarre.
There is so there's some key differences. Obviously, this was based on a book,
Okay,
and
yeah.
there is
And
some
you
people
read the book, right?
yeah. And a lot of people don't know that, but so we have some of the key differences that I guess will bounce back and forth between them. And I'll take the first. We'll go one by one here, I guess. I'll take the first on the movie and the book, and then you do the second one on the movie and the book, and
Okay,
we'll
okay.
go that way.
Sounds good.
So, the movie emphasizes visual and atmospheric horror, blending psychological elements with more straightforward creature feature scares, while the book leans heavily into psychological horror, focusing on themes of isolation, despair, and deteriorating mental states of the characters.
Well, touching on these themes, the movie is more focused on Luke's personal redemption and his confrontation with guilt. The book delves deeply into the themes of ancient rituals, the decline of faith, and the clash between modern. Why can't I say that word right now?
I can't either.
Modernity,
Yeah, I can't either.
modernity, and paganism. Modern life and paganism. That sounds actually pretty interesting. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, it is. There is a lot of like
Modernity.
there is a lot of like differences, I guess, between the two, which is I wasn't expecting. I thought it was like a straight,
Does
you
it
know,
lean heavily into like the Wendigo type stuff, or is it
yeah,
more
like
like
there's a lot more. So like, it kind of ties into the next one, I guess. So the cult is less prominent in the movie and more mysterious. It serves mainly to facilitate the climactic confrontation with is Moder? Is that how you?
motor? That's some I don't know what that is. Say with modern tea.
Moder is like the creature. I'm just not
Weird.
sure how to pronounce it. The musician subplot is entirely removed. So then this is something then that's in the book that I was kind of shocked by. So the cultists in the book worship Moder, which is the creature, but
Jötunn motor.
their practices are detailed more extensively in the book. The leader of the cult is a deranged satanic musician who plays a significant role in the second half of the story.
I would even like to hear see a movie done about the book because it sounds pretty interesting. And it's definitely like some sort of Wendigo creature, but they just named it. It seems like some sort of Swedish monster, which I don't know if there is any folklore in Sweden about. Right, that's where they go, right? Sweden.
Yeah.
If there is any, so I'm sure it would be interesting at some point. We should definitely. I'm gonna have to bank up a lot of cryptid episodes anyway, so it would be interesting to look at some of the Swedish folklore about monsters because I wonder if this has anything to do with an actual thing
Yeah.
and maybe they changed
So
the name.
Yeah, so supposedly it draws on Norse pagan beliefs. The novel introduces a creature linked to ancient rituals and gods.
Oh man, I just watched The Northman for the first time, and that's like the same kind of thing because I love Robert Eggers, right? And I thought it was pretty good, but that just how much they were like worshiping these weird ancient gods and stuff like that. Because I've read into Norse mythology or whatever, and done episodes
Mhm.
about it way back in the day, and it is pretty interesting. There's a lot of weird stuff about that whole culture, you could say, that ancient culture. It's fascinating to me. Mulder, sure. Mulder is the monster, of course. In the movie, it's explicitly explicit. Why can't I talk today? I can't read.
I'm as bad.
Jesus. It's depicted as terrifying, unique creature, blending deer and humanoid features with a focus on her more physical menace, which is interesting. I didn't think of it as a female. So it's weird. And in the book, the monster is present but remains more enigmatic. I can say these words. I've rapped with these type of words. Enigmatic with a focus on her divine status and influence. It's interesting. I don't know. It's really weird to like feminize a creature and like
I know,
what
yeah.
it's weird to think like, oh, it's a female that they're praising and maybe it helps take care of the cult members or whatever. But that's
Yeah,
just I never thought of it having a gender. That's fucking weird.
because it's like that whole thing about like bowing down to it or whatever and like kind of submitting to it.
Yeah.
So the ending in the movie is more triumphant. Luke faces Mulder directly, symbolically overcoming his guilt by screaming defiantly at the creature. However, in the book, the ending is more abstract, with Luke barely escaping and Mulder remaining an overwhelming godlike presence The tone is bleak, reflecting Luke's continuing internal struggles. So,
And
like,
you read the whole book?
yeah, and I feel like, in my opinion, anyway, and I actually like both, but I would love to see like an exact movie adaptation of the
Yeah.
book. Now, at the same time, I can kind of see why they got rid of certain things because I don't know how well it would have read, like how well it would have come across onto the screen. But obviously there's way more of like the cult and like their backstory and like their whole thing, which I would have loved more of that in the movie.
Yeah, because you just kind of discover the cult, and then it's just kind of like, boom, 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 like it just like
Yeah.
directly like off everything goes off the rails, right? And panic
And like
ensues.
I think some of that has to do with like, I mean, it has a runtime of what, 94 minutes. So like they
Yeah,
were
yeah.
trying to keep it quite tight. And I feel like that maybe if they had have added that stuff in, like we could have had like a 2 hour and 15 minutes movie. And I don't know if
Oh
there was
yeah,
a
yeah, that's
fear
true.
like, oh, we're gonna absolutely just like, you know, um, completely push ourselves out of any kind of like Netflixy top 10 movies. But there's definitely an aspect in the movie where the creature is more like a creature, if you get what I mean, like a monster. Whereas in the book, I felt like they were trying to give off the vibe of like it's like this ancient like goddess thing.
Yeah, and that's what's yeah, that's what, and the movie is definitely more of like a weird creature. Like I didn't even think about having a gender. It just looks weird. Like at some point when we get into the ending more or less, or we could now or soon. But like I want you to bring up that image that when it fucking grabs that guy's face and then looks at him, it's weird looking, man. You know, it's like in the inside, you can kind of see it. Like it reminds me of there's that like that wizard off of that game, and you just see is it Spyro? Maybe it's Spyro, and you just see like the eyes. What's that like? It's gonna drive me insane. It's off. I can see it in my head. Wizard hood. Whatever. It's just so weird. So weird to see it when like in that whole scene, dude. When he sees his wife like calling him over or whatever, like she's walking towards him, and it's crazy. Maybe I'm thinking the Jabberwockies or whatever. That what's the thing from Star Wars?
Um,
Not the
no,
Jabberwockies.
I know what you're talking about.
That they make all those weird sounds. Where there's I
Um,
haven't pulled up here.
the jab isn't the Jabberwockies like those dance that dance?
Yeah, that's just what I'm thinking. Let me see. Jawas. The
Yeah, yeah,
Jawas.
yeah. With the
They kind
eyes,
of look
yeah.
like that though. Like they're I don't know what the hell's under those hoods. The things are creepy looking, the Jawas. But like when he's like sees his wife and then she's like grabbing his face and then he like it like pans to like the thing like consuming him. Oh, it's so messed up, dude.
Yeah, it's weird. Like I like it. I like
Yeah,
the creature.
it
It's a
kind of looks like
freaky
a
looking.
Wendigo though. It's for sure like
Yeah, it does,
based
doesn't it?
somewhat.
And even though I look at it an awful lot, I still can't really figure out exactly what it is, if that makes sense.
I
Like I'm
know.
like looking at it, I'm like, there's like legs coming out where like the like down
Do you know who
by his leg.
designed it? Like, was the design based on the design of the book, or
Well, I think they took like some like look at
I
the
know.
shadow of it or whatever in the background of that. Like that is such a strange looking. Could you imagine if you were in the middle of nowhere and you saw that shit? Like I would just die on the spot.
It's such a weird looking creature, especially with like whoever like created the adaptation, the interpretation of what we think the monster is from the book. It's like so weird looking with the arms hanging down. It's that's why it's so scary, especially when you see it for the first time, really. Like they do some close-ups or whatever, but when you see it in the shadow and the background with the fire and stuff like that. I remember when I first watched the movie. I probably was like I was with Chelsea. I'm sure I was like, "It's a Wendigo!" Like I instantly thought that that's what it was, and it's just freaky looking, man. The guy did a good job of just making it weird looking.
So, Motor is the main antagonist for the 2017 British horror film The Ritual. the bastard daughter of the Norse trickster god Loki. Moder forces a small village in the woods of northern Sweden to worship her in exchange for immortality. Moder is an enormous elk-like creature whose body appears to be overgrown with plant matter. Instead of a head, it has a headless human torso where its head should be. The torso head has a pair of antlers where its arms should be, a pair of human arms where its legs should be, and a shadowy gaping hole containing glowing yellow eyes where its crotch would be.
Is this like a
Moder,
real thing? Like, could we cover this?
Moder also possesses a second pair of human arms near its hips.
Yeah, it's weird.
It is over 12 feet in height. It is considered a godlike entity. It possesses superhuman strength, telepathy, can cause hallucinations. Moder,
That's a lot like
name. So the name is a Norse word for mother.
it sounds like it sounds like a Wendigo. A Wendigo. It sounds like one, but in Sweden.
So that's actually the Norse name for mother. So I'm assuming that's why it's referred to as a female then.
Oh, interesting. Is a type of Germanic mythology and in contrast gods. Huh. It is a lot. When I do look this up, it is like bringing up like a lot of things about the movie. The mayor is not fully understandable. This is interesting. So, the adaptation of the novel.
So it is based on an actual thing. So that thing you said, let me pull this up here so people can just see what I'm looking at. So it is based around the idea of this.
Weird.
Yeah, so that's what they're saying.
Huh.
Yeah,
we should cover that. I think because me and Juan did an episode. It's now on Patreon, like way back in the day, about Norse mythology and the creatures and monsters. There's a ton of them. Like you could do a 3-hour episode or 2 episodes. Like it is pretty wild. I wouldn't mind covering some of that stuff at some point. Because even like I'm reading this article on Monster Legacy, and it's just talking about like the mortar, whatever, chooses to how to perceive to those in its presence in a manner that is not fully understandable. We knew that we were going to have to be some sort of animal god, but we also talked a lot about how it would be seen or how you would give it a human quality. Buckner said, obviously the director, right? How would you obfuscate the differences between animal and human, and could an animal form read like a human intelligence? He also added, we had kind of to literalize, I can't speak today, not just how it looks, but how it chooses to be present. Because the idea that these kind of shape-shifting Norse gods that can kind of choose how they want to look to you. So what you're seeing is often how it desires to be interpreted, and part of the way that it intimidates and controls. That's actually really interesting how he chose the chose what it would look like, and how it creates its own form to scare you and probably subdue you and intimidate you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is it just like the Wendigo does. There's a couple of cryptids or monsters throughout folklore that do this type of thing where they cast images on your mind. It might not even look like what you think it looks like.
Yeah, so like that's kind of tying into
cool.
what I pulled up on screen here. Where
man, this fucking okay. Yeah, you can say it because I want to bring up some after of this. Just this image is the one that I was talking about.
Bone chilling images. Blah, blah, blah. The group begin to experience odd phenomena such as nightmares, visions of a strange horned figure in the trees, and eventually physical harm that leads to death. Loki was seen as particularly well known for being a trickster in Norse mythology as well as a shapeshifter, which kind of aligns with what you just said there.
Yeah.
In the ritual's penultimate scene, the surviving men discover a creature in the woods that is connected to the effigy they had previously discovered. This horrifying tribute of a decapitated person built from branches with antlers for hands is revealed. to be worshipped by a cult and given sacrifices so they can sustain their immortality in return. According to the cult,
Hmm.
the being they worship is Jötunn.
A bastard son of Loki. That's cool. Yeah, Jötunn. I feel like I've heard about this before. That's pretty cool, man.
Yeah, like in the whole shapeshifter thing.
Well, if you want, well, like we're gonna redo Strange redo of the Wendigo. But I actually wouldn't. Me and you could probably do a fun 2-hour episode about like Norse creatures and monsters and stuff like that. Bring it back, because me like Juan and me covered it. It's on the Patreon now, but like I wouldn't mind diving back into some of this stuff, because I do find it fascinating, and there's some really cool things about like Viking folklore and stuff.
So there's a lot of stuff there we could cover. Like they're saying that some of the gods are supposed to be descendants of the ancient Jötunn, including Odin and Thor himself.
Huh.
Therefore, they are some of the oldest beings in the 9 worlds, and stories about them frequently represent man's often tumultuous relationship with nature.
Yeah.
A common theme in folk horror, like the ritual, it is a place where legend, tradition, and the modern world often collide.
It's pretty cool. Bring up this image that I have on screen. This is the one I was talking about, where once you see this, you're like, what the fuck is that thing? And it does look like a Jawa. Like, it looks like it's just a weird hooded creature, like almost like a weird vagina with eyes. It's weird looking. They made it fucked up.
Yeah, because that's actually what they're talking about there. So that part is like where like the dick and balls should be in the body.
What? Weird.
Yeah, so like if we go back to just this image for a second, right? That's a human body stuck on the head of this thing, right?
Oh, what the fuck? Underneath there's arms too. What the fuck?
So like if you look at the head of it,
So
that's a human torso.
Yeah.
And where the face is, where we're looking at the thing where that face is, that's like
it's like
where
upright, right? It's like standing up kind of.
Yeah, like so like the body is like lying back like that. And where them eyes are is like where the genitals would be. There's like a hole.
So fucking weird. They made a weird looking creature, to say the least, man. That thing looks, especially like that when you first watch this movie and then you see that thing, it is weird looking, and you're like, what is that? And obviously, like the first thing my head went to is a Wendigo. Like I was like, whoa, that's pretty wild. Like, because you hear the stories about it and the shapeshifts, same kind of idea. But all of these, I feel like all these folklore and stories all come from not necessarily the exact same thing, but everyone seems to experience the same. It's just that idea that like someone in Africa has seen a gray alien, and then someone in Mexico draws it on a wall. You know what I mean? That like people share these same experiences of maybe things that they didn't understand at the time, but could have been very real, either to them, or it's just like symbols of things that they endured or went through. Pretty wild though. Such a weird. We've covered a lot of weird monsters on my show, on your show of like horror type monsters. This one is definitely one of the strangest, like for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure. And you know what else I didn't realize? Obviously, they use some CG in certain parts to touch up different things, but a lot of that is practical.
I love practical effects. I don't even care. It looks 10 times better.
They wanted it that way on purpose. So supposedly, the design of the creature was heavily influenced by practical effects of classic horror films. The creature's towering humanoid form is a mix of CG and practical prosthetics, designed to invoke terror in a way that felt grounded in the physicality of the creature. There was a heavy emphasis on the practical effects, especially in the creation of the monster and the environments that was surrounding it. The use of practical effects was intended to give the film a more visceral and realistic sense of dread.
It makes sense. Like here, like it makes sense that it is like a kind of different creature, but like my mind definitely went to this. But it is cool that there's another sort of folklore to do with this to bring up on the show. But look at the Wendigo. It looks similar, not the same, but it does look it looks similar.
I'll be honest, when I first saw this movie, I thought that's what this was. It was just like another variation of like that.
It's cool that it's something different though.
I never really realized that till I started to kind of look into it a bit more.
Like it looks quite. Imagine coming across that thing.
Yeah, it does.
Fuck that.
And they've definitely taken like there's definitely a an aspect of like inspiration they've taken from something like that.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. This will be cool because like I definitely want to recover the Wendigo, but like I think doing some of the Norse mythology, even if we do a couple parts on it, probably would be pretty interesting for people to hear because it is such a weird. It's a pretty there's so much folklore, especially around some of these ancient cultures. Um, but yeah, I even some of those scenes where like when they first come across the deer in the tree and they're like, how the hell did that get up there? It's prey for hunters. Like you're just like trying to make up these excuses of like what's actually happening, but then and you see his body getting strung up in the tree. I think that's what happens to the one guy, maybe the Indian guy. I think he dies because of that. And it's just like, it's wild to be like, oh, well, this is great. What is that thing? Why is it out there? Why is that body? Oh, yeah, that's Luke, isn't it? That's shitty.
Yeah, it's just so I don't know. There's something like so grim and kind of raw about the whole thing.
Yeah.
And the way it like picks up the bodies. Is it Dom is the guy you don't like, right?
Yeah.
And even when he like when it picks up him and it brings him off and then sticks him up on the branch or whatever, it like stabs the branch through his chest and
Yeah.
just
Oh,
leaves
yeah.
him
Yeah.
there.
So,
And then Luke, remember he asks the chick from the cult, he's like, "Did you take him down off the thing or whatever?" And she was like, "No, we don't touch the bodies once
yeah,
she puts them
weird.
up, we don't like touch the bodies or whatever." And he's like, "What the fuck you on about?" And she's like, "Tonight you'll bow to Mordor like we all do or whatever or something like that, and then you'll be safe." And he was like, to be fair to him, for a guy who started off the movie as a shitbag, like he turns around, he's like, "Yeah, I'm not gonna live like you fucking people. Are you crazy? There's no way I'm doing that."
Because
Like,
they want to take him into the cult, it seems like, right?
yeah, yeah, it looks like it because he's like, "Why me? What has it got to do with me?" And she was like, "Because it knows your pain is great." So I think the whole idea, if you've
Yeah.
read the book has a more fleshed out version of this, but like in the book, um, there's a lot more focus on like the psychological trauma that he's after like undergoing and like all his past experiences. And then at the end of the book, there's a lot of like unresolved stuff. Like you can see, obviously, he's after sacrificing a certain amount of stuff. He survived and overcome this big thing. But then there's like a degree of, I feel like the movie gives you a little bit of a feeling of like, he's screaming back at the monster and it's like,
Yeah.
oh, I've done that thing that everyone does in movies where I've like overcome my fears and I've gotten rid of the guilt. Whereas in the book, it's kind of left going like, well, there's like unresolvable darkness in the human soul. So even though he's come through all this stuff, it's still there. It doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah, no. It's I brought up another image just of this, just another thing to show how creepy this thing looks. There's so many, like once you start to see the creature, it's like, what the fuck is that thing? I will 100% give them props for creating one of the most unique monsters that I've seen on screen. That's like not really like overdone CGI, some bullshit that just looks totally fake. I think they did a good job. I think it's like it's a weird looking creature, man. And there's
And
some
you know what?
cool art of this creature on Google and stuff. It's weird looking.
And another thing that's mad is like, even though I only watched this again last night, and like I'm still during those scenes, like that scene where it's looking in through the door and stuff,
Yeah.
I still found myself like looking at the screen going, I can't tell which part
I
is that his
know.
head or his legs or his arms, or like does he have arms for legs? Does he have legs for a head? Like which
It's
part
such
of
a
him is that?
weird looking thing, man. And that's how I'm like, for so unique in my opinion. Um,
Yeah, so we'll pull up a little bit of trivia before we start, I guess, getting our final thoughts and bringing things to a close. So yeah, as we've said, it's inspired by folklore. The film's monster Modor is based on a Norse mythology and is a Jötunn,
sure. Jötunn sounds like some sort
um,
of
which is a
Viking
type
shit.
of giant, a Norse giant, which we've kind of alluded to. Um, it's a novel adaptation. It's based on Adam Nevill's 2011 novel of the same name. Creature design. Motor was designed by renowned creature designer Keith Thompson, known for his work on Crimson Peak and Pacific Rim. So props to him. Director's genre love. David Bruckner, the director, is known for his work in horror, including segments in VHS and Southbound, which we talked about earlier. Practical effects. Many of the fire scenes and monster appearances relied heavily on practical effects rather than CGI. Symbolic opening scene. The liquor store robbery scene sets up themes of guilt and grief that permeate the film throughout. Critical acclaim. The film holds a 73% rating on Rotten Tomatoes and was praised for its atmospheric tension.
It should be praised. It is a good film, man. It is. I'm gonna give it a good rating, of course, right? And it's well, let's get into it now. I do think honestly, I don't know. I gotta be honest, man. It's gotta be like an 8.5 or something like that.
Yeah.
Like it is really well done. It keeps your attention. It's well written. The actors are good. You're just really focused on 4 people who carry the film. I like it. Especially when I saw it the first time, I was like, "This thing's pretty cool." Like, and it was just like, obviously, like I'm super into the weird and strange and bizarre things. Same with you. But that realization that I remember the first time I watched it, and I was like, "It's a Wendigo." Like, I thought that was so cool that they like kind of mixed in this type of cryptid folklore. Actually, I was like, "This is sweet, so different." That's why I like Antlers too. Like, I do think we should bring on Shane for that because he keeps telling me how much he loves horror movies, and we gotta throw him onto the show. Maybe just to get a live stream or something like that with all 3 of us. But that movie also is kind of similar, where I was like, "Whoa, that's cool that they're taking some of this folklore and these weird things in the zeitgeist, you could say, and then they're making a film out of it." And it's just cool that this one was based on a book. Because there's probably a ton of books out there that are like could be turned into a movie that are just like this, that have some sort of monster creature and cults, and it's all about how you throw the movie together. And some come out terrible, man. There's so many movies that are based on books that don't really hold true to the book, and they take their own creative freedom, and then it doesn't do well. But I felt like this one, even though you said they kind of took more creative freedom and they changed things, I think they did a good job.
It's one of those things as well where I got just enough to be really happy and like really interested, but then at the same time, like I have that like tism thing where I'm like, I want more. I want a prequel, so I want to find out how this cult came to be.
Oh, that's a good idea. I was gonna say I want number 2, but I guess
because originally I was thinking I want number 2, but then I was like, I wonder though, would I prefer to know like
the cult aspects of it? I actually like that,
and like how they came to be, and like what happened with that like creature, how that all started, and whatever. Now I don't know like how you could do that, even if it came in, I guess, in book form, because I was looking up to see was there like a book sequel or prequel, but I don't think they've ever seen anything. Like loads of people here online are like, oh, I'd be totally down for a second one. A prequel or sequel or both would be great. 20th century prequel set around the creature and the folklore. The creature was so unique and interesting. I would love a prequel and a sequel. I would love to see the origins of the cult. Like everyone seems to be saying the same thing. It's crazy that like there's so many people out there who love this and like would love to see like a sequel or a prequel or whatever. I didn't realize as well, David Bruckner, who directed this movie, he also made a movie in 2021 called No One Gets Out Alive, and it's just this kind of like a little funny thing. He put a little reference in it where there's a scene where a chick is in the kitchen and there's like a radio playing in the background, and a reporter comes on like a news station on the radio, and he's like, next up we find out what really happened to those 4 UK hikers who went missing in the Swedish wilderness. And then the thing like gets in, like, I don't know, something happens, it goes all staticky and it cuts off, and like lots of people are like, oh, he's teasing, they're going to do another one. But I don't know if he'll ever. I think he's alluded to it a few times, but I don't know if we'll ever see it.
That's too bad, because I feel like they could capitalize on this and make it good. You know what I mean? Like,
I know, right? Like this could be a nice little franchise.
Yeah, I actually do really like it. I know you could make 3. You could do this whole thing of bouncing around. Okay, you do like a prequel, and then and you explain like where the cult came from and all this stuff, and then you do a second one, or maybe like the characters, their family goes looking for them, and then messed up stuff starts to happen to them, or whatever it might be, right? Like there's definitely ways to write it, but it's sad when you have like, and then it's like, do you want to spoil it? It's a good movie on its own, it stands alone. It's hard to say.
Yeah, it's a pity. A lot of people as well call this the best non-sequel to the Blair Witch mythology we could have ever
Over there.
asked for.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, I guess you could say, but I liked it. I thought it was well done, good. Something different. It's funny because we talked about doing this like probably so long ago, and then we
I know, yeah.
finally got to it.
I think I'm just gonna have to do that to myself now, where I'm like, I just pick something and just like go with it, because if not, I'll keep going. Oh no, not this, that. Oh, not that.
I know.
That no, don't do that. Do this. So that's why, like, even with the Nosferatu thing, I was like, you know what? Let's just make that the next thing, because if not, there's like too much choice. It's like when I go to watch a movie, it's a similar thing where I'm like, I want to talk to you about so much stuff that I can never like
I
get
know.
my brain. All right,
That's
just
the same way
stop,
with me, man.
pick this one thing.
Look,
do that.
I'll just show you this. So these are all the for all the people watching. These are all the episodes that I've written out all ready to go. And this is just on one computer, and then I just have a little section for my cryptids episode. But like, there's a shit ton of stuff that I have like ready to go. So like, it is tough to like choose of what we're wanting to do. You know what I mean? Because like I have so many ideas. I'm like, we could do this, that. And we have plenty on the go for both shows. I feel like we got a lot of ideas. It's just we got to put them into the works and make some art, baby.
Yeah, which we're gonna do this year. 2025, I think, is gonna be our year. I'm gonna put a lot of time and some money maybe behind some of this stuff and see what works and what doesn't work first, and try and get us out there. I want to get to fucking 10K on Instagram. I feel like that gets you a bit more like clout or whatever when you're actually like reaching out to different people to get them to collab and stuff. It's such a sad thing, like, but I definitely feel like that's the key. Like, it's like once you have like, say,
media.
the 10K thing or whatever, people like take you a little bit more serious, and like,
I know.
And I've been noticing a massive drop off in followers on things like Instagram the last, like, over Christmas. Like, I've lost a severe amount of followers. And I don't know what that is or why that is. Like, even when I'm posting, I still somehow seem to be losing shit tons of people. I don't know if it's like dead accounts or it's just Instagram doing its thing.
Yeah, who knows? I've lost like it is sad because I've lost accounts, right? Like I had we had a couple thousand people on one Instagram that got taken down. I had one that I was speaking out against the stuff that going on in the world, and that got to like almost 13,000 people, and then that got taken down. So it is rough when you're like, oh, you build something up and you're trying to collect an audience, and then a lot of people, like, that's why you gotta support the show. Like I really like push people to do that on both ends. Is follow our Instagram, follow our X, help us get the show out there. Follow Class Horrorcast everywhere that you can. First Class Horror. Follow Strange Brew Podcast. Help us build up our social media so we can get more out there, right? And we see like thousands of people tuning in, listening, especially on audio and stuff like that. But we need people to actually go out of their way, take the 2 minutes to leave a 5-star rating review. The show is, in both of our shows, is pretty much free, right? For other than to make a couple ads for everybody to like listen to, and put all this content. And if you guys could support us in that way, it does mean a lot more than you think. And that's why you follow all the accounts on social media, 5-star rating reviews, whether that be Spotify, definitely on Apple Podcasts, write something out for us. All that stuff does help more than I think you realize.
Yeah, for sure. And especially coming into this year, like, we want to start interacting with people more. When I get some questions, maybe we'll feel like every now and again we'll do like an audience participation episode or something like that. And we're going to do more live streams and things and just try and interact with the audience a bit more. I feel like there's a massive disconnect there between shows and like the people who listen. And it doesn't cost anything for you guys just to interact with us in any way, shape, or form, whether that be sharing, whether that be a comment, a little bit of feedback, a DM, an email, or whatever it is, like, in any way. And it could potentially help change the course of both of our shows, both of our lives, that we can really, really like laser focus on this and make this like a
Yeah.
like a real thing.
I know, and that's the whole goal, right? Like we do want to turn this into a career at some point. Like that would be a dream come true. I would have never pictured that my life could have gone this direction. And that's why, we do really appreciate, even on my show, we used to joke around and, but I'm like, it is up to the audience. It is the people that support the show, that listen, that watch, that come join the live streams, that are really contributing to helping the show and helping us out as people. You know what I mean? And, at the end, and the more content we can produce, the shows that I know that are helping my side out a little bit with some stuff, especially one, they put out an episode every day, almost every day they're putting out an episode, so more and more people in there can like have something to listen to while they're out and about, on a walk, at work, so it's the more that you help us, the more that we can bring some enjoyment to your lives, make you laugh. And then definitely I like the idea of having the community get more involved during live streams, right? And that's why it's hard to plan out. A lot of people like they're live on this day, on Tuesday. Once we start getting that figured out, maybe we can get a more robust schedule so people can come in. Because like even on my end, when we do live streams, we'll get those people in. You'll see it. Even on we went live for one of my favorite episodes we've done in a while, but the John Benet Ramsey episode. Me and Aaron covered John Benet Ramsey, did a really good job at doing the whole thing within about 2 hours and a bit. And we had people all come into the chat talking with us, people that were new to the show, and that is the best way to support, is just kind of show up. And if you see us going live, make sure to tune in and click on stuff, ask us questions, all that stuff. We're very open to that stuff.
Yeah, and we want to start doing more and more of that. And I think me and Tom have been brainstorming. There's other stuff that we're going to talk about that are in the works, and things we're going to do in the upcoming year that I think will help with all that from both sides.
Just imagine one day if we could meet together, create a show, do a documentary, something, even if it's a couple of years, right? Like I would fucking love that shit, man.
You know what, right? I was walking the dog before we started the show earlier, and I was thinking, I was like, you know what, I might go visit. I'd love to go visit Tom now this year. And I'm there going, I'm like, wait a sec though. I was like, when is his kid coming?
I know.
I was like, that's gonna. I can't just arrive at the door and be like, hey, I'm here as well. You've got 2 kids.
Well, we're definitely going to have to make it happen, like no matter what.
100%.
If we can ever live off the show and we can make enough money to travel and do, I have so many ideas. I could, if I had the money, I could definitely film some sort of crazy doc. I just have a feeling I could.
It'd be so good. But yeah, like Tom was saying, we appreciate everybody who has stuck with us through everything, all the crazy real life times. And all we're trying to do is, I guess, escape from reality a bit, give you guys a bit of an escape, a bit of entertainment. Yeah, look, I know sometimes on some of the shows and some of the episodes we might talk about some like real life stuff and it feels like we're harping on, but at the end of the day, we're just trying to, like, I don't know, escape from reality a bit. And I feel like that's what horror has done for probably all of us from a young age.
I agree. And I've said this numerous times. You have to agree with everybody, everything everybody says. There's people that I really like that I'm like, I don't really necessarily agree with him on that or her on that, but I like them overall and their message and what they're trying to contribute, even to the horror community, whatever. I have loved horror longer than I've loved conspiracy theories or the paranormal or any of the stuff that I'm really interested in, even my anti-government sentiments. You know what I mean? Like, this is something that's always been in my life, and who knew that I would end up doing a horror podcast with someone that became one of my best friends on the other side of the world. It's a weird,
bizarre. Like, it's funny how the world works.
I know, it's so weird. Life's a weird thing, dude.
It is like, and the same goes for you guys, and that's why I know there's lots of people out there who continuously listen to us week in, week out, and never interact or never comment or never let us know. But I do want people to start coming out of the woodwork a bit more and shoot us a DM, even if it's a private thing that you don't want like us to say anything about or whatever. But just let us know, like, how long you've been listening, or maybe a favorite episode or something you didn't like, or something you would prefer we do more of or less of, or a suggestion you might have, or whatever it is. Like, even if it's just a chat, a back and forth chat, just get involved
100%.
with it. We're just regular people. I don't know if you can tell that. Like, I know we're a bit crazy or whatever, but we are just normal people, like, at the end of the day. So yeah, we appreciate everyone for taking the time. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thanks for sticking with us through our outro ramblings as always.
Yes,
And
so true.
yeah, we'll see everybody real soon. And we have a lot of stuff coming for 2025. And yeah, keep an eye on our socials. And yeah, peace.
Peace.